Hello. Today we're going to look at the prophet Habakkuk, certainly a contemporary global man for our times. Habakkuk. I really like this guy. In fact, he was one of my personal favorite people in the Bible. He could easily fit right into our society and times today. The reason is that he experienced a lot of what we experience today and asked an age old question that is still asked, will be asked by generations to come. He is a man not only for our times, but all, past, present, and future. But first, before we look at his concern, let's look at some of the background of Habakkuk in his book. Habakkuk is one of those small books of the Bible at the end of the Old Testament, 5 books back from the New Testament book of Matthew. I think it is overshadowed by the New Testament and some of the more prominent books of the Old Testament. Habakkuk is considered to be one of the 12 minor prophets, not because his message is any less important, but because the book is short, only 3 short chapters. Many people simply skip over reading it. But who was Habakkuk? We don't really know. All that we do know about him is found in his one short book, and that's not much at all. There is no other mention of him in the Old Testament. What we can definitively conclude by the events mentioned in Habakkuk is that he lived in Judah, wrote the book around 650 BC. Some scholars and traditions place a slightly different date of about 45 years later, but for our purposes, 650 BC is fine. We know he lived in tumultuous times as his own society was in disarray and also being threatened by the more powerful nation, the Babylonians. We can see that he was a learned man, probably had musical abilities. Beyond that, anything else is really speculation or educated guesses. So if you see a biographical article or book on the life of Habakkuk, it may be an interesting read, but just bear in mind it's not definitive. So, what was his concern? Well, let's look at chapter 1, beginning with verse 2. Remember, his world was one in turmoil. O Lord, how long must I call for help before you listen, before you save us from violence? Why do you make me see such trouble? How can you stand to look upon such wrongdoing? Destruction and violence are all around me, and there is fighting and quarreling everywhere. The law is weak and useless. Justice is never done. Evil people get the better of the righteous, and so justice is perverted. Well, sounds sort of familiar, doesn't it? We can just hear Habakkuk's anxiety and frustration. Why is the Lord allowing all this to happen? Before we look at that, Habakkuk had the faith and confidence to bring his concern to God in prayer. However, look at how he did it. He did not hold back. He did not sugarcoat it, dance around it, or deal in euphemisms. He told God in no uncertain terms how he felt. He was honest with God. God rapidly answered him. He showed Habakkuk he was listening and does answer. However, the answer Habakkuk received was not the expected one, and certainly not one he wanted to hear. I'm paraphrasing, but God told him, Habakkuk, I hear you. You know what? I'm going to make it worse. I'm bringing the Babylonians to conquer. Well, let me say the Babylonians were not known as benevolent conquerors. God describes in detail how they will be in chapter 1, verses 8 and 9. Their horses are faster than leopards, fiercer than hungry wolves. Their cavalry troops come riding from distant lands. Their horses paw the ground. They come swooping down like eagles attacking their prey. Their armies advance in violent conquest, and everyone is terrified as they approach. Their captives are as numerous as grains of sand. They treat kings with contempt and laugh at high officials. No fortress can stop them. They pile up earth against it and capture it. Then they sweep on like wind and are gone, these men whose power is their God. Well, certainly that's not something to look forward to. So how did Habakkuk respond? He reminds God of how evil they are. In chapter 1, verse 13, Habakkuk asks, but how can you stand these treacherous evil men? Your eyes are too holy to look at evil, and you cannot stand the sight of people doing wrong. So why are you silent while they destroy people who are more righteous than they are? He was referring to the Babylonians and asking God to stop or punish people who are less righteous. But hold on a moment. Why did Habakkuk offer his first prayer? It wasn't about the Babylonians, but why evil people get the better of the righteous, in referring to his own society. At this point, Habakkuk should remember that his own society was not a just one either. It had fallen away from God. Well, this is just a thought, but maybe he is getting his original prayer answered as he wanted, but in a different way. The unrighteous in his society will be punished after all and suffer deprivations. However, let's go back and look at verse 13 again. But how can you stand these treacherous evil men? Your eyes are too holy to look at evil, and you cannot stand the sight of people doing wrong. So why are you silent while they destroy people who are more righteous than they are? Well, this question will continue to be asked through the ages. In fact, far into the ages until the end times. In Revelation 6, 9, 10, under the altar of the Lord, the souls that were slain for proclaiming God's word shouted in a loud voice, Almighty Lord, holy and true, how long will it be until you judge the people on earth and punish them for killing us all? Well, they did not hold back either in asking the same type of question. Why don't you, or when will you, punish those who do evil against righteous ones? A modern day version we may hear is, why does God allow bad things to happen to good people? In both cases, with Habakkuk and the martyred saints, the answer was the same. It's only going to get worse. However, in both cases, the Lord tells them to be patient. The unjust time are coming. They will get their due. In both cases, the Lord does not offer a generic statement. In Revelation, the Lord shows in detail how it will happen. With Habakkuk in chapter 2, 6 through 19, God shows why it will happen to the Babylonians and what they did to bring their coming destruction upon themselves. But let's step back a moment. What did Habakkuk do after his second prayer? He said in chapter 2, verse 1, I will stand up on my watch and set me upon the tower, and will watch to see what he will say unto me, and what I shall answer when I am reproved. So let's break this down. The first part is one of my favorite passages in the Bible. I will stand up on my watch and set upon the tower, and will watch to see what he will say unto me. That is something we might consider doing. We might want to go to our watchtower, metaphorically speaking for us, and wait for the Lord to give us guidance, instruction, and wisdom. Where is your watchtower? Well, for me, it's right here where I'm sitting before you. I live out in an empty desert. Sometimes I'm studying the Word at 2 or 3 in the morning. All is very dark, except when there's a full moon, and it's quiet outside, except for the occasional coyote. I feel like I'm standing night watch, waiting for the Lord's guidance. It's really a powerful message. The second part of the passage, and what I shall answer when I am reproved. At this point, Habakkuk realizes that he cannot remind God of what God has done, was not done, of what is around him, and order God what to do. He will wait for his discipline and then consider his response. Well, God did not discipline or rebuke him, or even respond to that comment, but instead directed that he write what the Lord was going to tell him about why the Babylonians will be punished. As we look at these, we need to bear in mind these are not unique to the Babylonians, but to any society, including those of today. So let's take a look at them. First, they take what is not theirs. They gain wealth through dishonesty. They build a city with bloodshed. They weary themselves for vanity. They worship false idols, and idols refer to anything that takes the place of God. Does this sound familiar, like our times today? So, what is Habakkuk's response? In chapter 3, verse 2, Habakkuk tells God that he is afraid. Well, Who wouldn't be if they knew the destruction and oppression that was coming? It is a natural reaction. And again, Habakkuk is honest in expressing it. Then Habakkuk remembers the past times when God delivered the Israelites from calamity and asked the Lord to revive his work. Habakkuk is quite descriptive in acknowledging the power of God over the universe. He places his trust in the Lord. He acknowledges the coming hard times in chapter 3, verse 17. Although the fig tree shall not blossom, neither shall fruit be in the vines, the labor of the olive shall fall, and the field shall yield no meat. The flock shall be cut off from the fold, and there shall be no herd in the stalls. So what will Habakkuk do? In verse 18, he says, "Yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will joy in the God of my salvation." In verse 19, Habakkuk describes what the Lord will do for him. He will give him strength, make him as sure-footed as the most sure-footed animals, and will keep him safe. Well, that's quite a lot packed into 3 short chapters. So what can we learn that's applicable to us today? Number 1, take your concerns to the Lord in prayer, and while being respectful, you can be honest in how you feel. If you're afraid of something, say so. There's no need to dance around the issue. Number 2, we cannot order God around. He will deliver on his promises, but maybe not on our time schedule or how we want it, but he will deliver. 3, the unjust will get their due. This is also reinforced in Romans 12:19. "A vengeance is mine, I will repay, saith the Lord." Sometimes the Lord uses the unjust to further his work, but they will not escape without dire consequences. Number 4, we should wait on the Lord. If we do, we can also see it as a time of reflection. Number 5, we can remember how the Lord has delivered on his promises in the past and be assured that he will continue to do so. We can place our trust in him. Habakkuk does not end here. So what happened? Well, the historical record shows the Babylonian rule lasted around 70 years, during which the Israelites were exiled into Babylonia. Persia later took over, and they were allowed to return, though not all did. And those who did return did not do so all at once. Many recognized why their punishment had occurred. For a book of the Bible with only 3 short chapters written by someone we don't know about and who is not referred to anywhere else in the Old Testament, Habakkuk has had a profound, lasting impact. It was known to the New Testament writers, as it is quoted 5 times in the New Testament. In Acts 13:41, Hebrews 10:37-38, Romans 1:17, and Galatians 3:11. Habakkuk is probably better recognized in the Eastern churches. His feast day is December 2nd in the Orthodox churches and January 15th in the Roman Catholic Church. Habakkuk's message has had cross-cultural, religious, and global reach. He is also recognized in the Jewish and Islamic faiths. There are 2 claimed sites for his grave. One is in a mausoleum in Iran that is well preserved and kept with an ornate interior. The other in Israel is in a small mausoleum where his tomb has a covering with the Star of David. So which one is the real tomb of Habakkuk? Well, that's another mystery about the person Habakkuk we'll probably never know. As for the person Habakkuk, he could fit right in with us today. He asked the same questions we ask. He too lived in a world of turmoil and uncertainty among the global powers of his day. His message appeals to a global audience. Though his book was small, it was anything but minor. Well, thanks so much for joining. I hope you were able to get some takeaways from this, and hopefully, look for you next time. Thanks again.